Hi, I'm Carol Salee, and this video is produced by the Salee Group. I'm primarily on YouTube with Real Bible, but I thought I'd branch into the wonderful world of parenting and family life. And in these types of segments, I want to offer hope, encouragement, ideas, and life hacks for today's parents. I have 3 kids born just about 26 months apart, and it was just my 2 little girls. It was easy for me as a mom to keep things even and fair in terms of taking turns. But when I added in a 3rd child, I felt like I started losing control, particularly when that youngest kid realized his sisters had been scamming him his whole entire life. So I thought, as a mom, I have to come up with some kind of a system that helps me manage all these turns that kids think somehow are their God-given right to have, and all of these choices and so much that comes, and they're confident and they're competitive, and those are qualities I want them to have, but it's tough on a daily basis to have to be reffing so many things over and over again. So I devised something that I called the Key Kid. And I'm not kidding. It changed my life as a young mom. And what I did was I went to the hardware store and I bought 3 identical keys. But I took each key and I wrote a different name of one of my children on it. So Julie had a key, Jill had a key, Josh had a key. And then my calendar that was hanging on the wall by a nail, I would put those keys on that calendar. And every day I would make sure that a different key was at the front. And the reason I had to use the key system was because my kids were too young so far to be able to read a calendar. Well, here's what it meant if you were the Key Kid. The Key Kid for that day, everything came their way. If there was a prize in the cereal box, you got the prize. If there was only a certain amount of cereal left and only one person was going to have enough to eat, the Key Kid got that. When we were going to school, the Key Kid, this was back when kids could sit in the front seat still, and they didn't have to weigh like 100 pounds to be able to move up to the front seat. The Key Kid always got to sit in the front seat. So anything that was like a choice or some kind of a privilege that would only come to one child, it always went to the Key Kid. But vice versa, one of the ways it helped me was also that the Key Kid had to take their bath first at night. If there were dishes that needed to be done, trash that needed to be taken out, it would be the responsibility of the Key Kid. So here's how this looked. If you're 5 years old, if you're 7 years old, you knew that every 3rd day, things were going to go your way. You were going to get that cereal box prize. You were going to get to control the remote and decide what your siblings were going to have to endure. On the television, you got to pick the game that the family was going to play. I have to tell you, my kids so fine-tuned this system that it came down to the Key Kid got to push the elevator buttons on that particular day. And I instituted that as part of the Key Kids because I watched Josh body block Jill to get to the elevator buttons before her. And I said, okay, that's it. Only the Key Kid gets to push the elevator buttons. Do you see what I'm saying? It made it where it just calmed things down. There was not this competition for all of these little minutia choices that kids go through. Now, I realize that my kids kind of messed with the system a little bit. They have just recently come clean with me that if one of them wasn't the Key Kid and they found a prize in the cereal box, they would hide it and then put it back in the next day. They have to stand before God accountable on that kind of thing. But eventually, as they got older, I did take a calendar, and their initials are JR, JC, JP. I would write on a calendar, JR, JC, JP, JR, JC, JP. Hang it on the refrigerator, and every morning they would get up and they would go and look and see who the Key Kid was for that day. And they couldn't argue with the system. They would say, hey, that's not fair. I thought it was my turn. And I could say, as the mom, it's the Key Kid system. There's nothing that I can do about it. And for some reason that worked. And I think it's because they knew that every 3rd day they were going to get those same rights and privileges. I will say that one of the things that I did was you always got to be the Key Kid on your birthday. Even if it meant you were the Key Kid 2 days in a row, that was just kind of like a special birthday present that you get to be the Key Kid an extra day for sure on a very special day. Now, you may think that this sounds so juvenile. I instituted this when they were 3, 5, and 7. This lasted until they were in high school. I mean, once they got into high school, the choices were different and they weren't hanging out in the same room, always watching television together and that kind of thing. But it got to a point where a friend would come over and I would hear one of my kids say, "Hey, it's my turn. I'm the key kid." And I could hear this teenage kid who didn't know our family structure say, "What's a key kid?" And so we had to go kind of on the down low, go kind of off the radar with it. But I'm telling you, it lasted for about 15 years that we had the key kid system. So anytime I see a mom who has more than two, I tell them, "I have a story for you about a thing called the key kid." And then I bestow this treasure on them that could actually have the same effect on their life and could change that arguing, and you don't have to feel like you're a ref all the time because, hey, it's the system. You may not want to call it the key kid. I have a friend they called theirs the KD, which stood for Kid of the Day. She had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, same as me. System worked for them. So that's just one of those life hacks that when I look back on, I realize I'm about to resurrect it. Because you see, I have 5 grandchildren, and I have 4 granddaughters first, and they're 7, 6, 5, 4. And the arguing has begun. Now, the little guy is only 1, and he doesn't know yet that he's being scammed out of things, but he's coming along, and he's going to know. And so just this last year, in 2021, I instituted Key Kid at Graham's house, and it works. It is working for another generation. It's like a legacy of crowd control. It has begun. This is Graham's. It's the Graham's Life. Thanks for watching.